All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be tackling something that's fascinated people, well, forever, I guess, the soul.
Hmm.
We've got excerpts from some online Spiritist resources, and they're really pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring exactly what the soul is, where it comes from, and the incredible journey it might take. And did you know that even before you were born, your soul might have already been on this epic journey of growth?
Yeah, it's a perspective that really challenges the way that we normally think about life and identity.
Absolutely.
We tend to think of ourselves as starting when we're born, but what if that's just one chapter in a much larger story?
Right. It's like opening up a book and realizing that there's like volumes and volumes that you haven't even seen yet. So how do we even begin to define this thing called the soul? You know, everyone from philosophers to scientists has weighed in, and there's really no one single answer.
I know it's kind of the beauty of it, but for this deep dive, we're really focusing on the Spiritist perspective, and it offers a really rich and detailed framework. One of the first things you encounter in Spiritist thought is the idea that there isn't just one type of soul. Allan Kardec, a really key figure in Spiritism, he identified three distinct categories of soul: vital, intellectual, and spiritual.
Okay, so it's like a soul with multiple layers. What does that mean for us practically, like in practical terms?
Okay, think of it this way. The vital soul is like the animating force behind everything. It's the life energy, the energy that's shared by all living things. It's what keeps our hearts beating, keeps our lungs breathing.
Right.
But the intellectual soul is where things get more interesting, because that's responsible for our reasoning, our thought processes, our capacity to learn.
Gotcha.
And then there's the spiritual soul. And that's the essence of who we are as individuals, the part that continues even after our physical body is gone.
Okay, so it's that spiritual soul, the one that makes us uniquely us, that we're really focusing on here. It's kind of like the captain steering the ship of our lives, right?
Precisely. And according to Spiritism, that captain has been on quite a voyage. They believe that the spiritual soul exists before we're even born and may have lived multiple lives before this one.
Wow, so it's not just about what we do in this lifetime, it's about this grander scheme of growth and progress that could span centuries, even millennia.
Exactly. And that brings us to another really interesting aspect of Spiritist thought: the idea that souls aren't created equal in their current state. Their differences stem from how much progress they've made in their previous existences. It's not about being born inherently good or bad, but rather where we are in our own journey of spiritual development.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, it's like some souls are fresh out of boot camp, while others are seasoned veterans, right?
That's a great analogy, and it really challenges our understanding of, like, fairness and justice.
Hmm.
If our current state is a result of choices that we've made in previous lives, what does that mean for our understanding of free will and responsibility?
That is a deep question. And speaking of deep, how does the soul even connect to the physical body? I mean, it's not like there's a cable plugging them together, is there?
Well, not exactly. Spiritism proposes this idea of the perispirit, a fluidic body that acts as this link between the spiritual and material realms.
Okay, the Perispirit. It sounds pretty complex. Can you break that down a little bit more for us?
Imagine it like this. You're an astronaut, and your soul wants to explore this vast, expansive space.
Okay.
But space is harsh, and you need this specialized suit to survive. The perispirit is kind of like that suit, allowing the soul to interact with and experience the physical world.
So it's like the soul's interface with the physical realm, right?
Yeah.
A sort of protective layer that lets it experience the sights and sounds and sensations of our world.
Exactly. And this perispirit, it plays a key role in some pretty amazing phenomena. Like, according to Spiritism, the soul can even temporarily leave the body while we're still alive, a concept that helps explain things like near-death experiences.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that our souls can go on these little field trips while we're still kicking?
That's exactly what they're suggesting. And think about dreams. Spiritists believe that these aren't just random firings in the brain, but experiences of the soul venturing out into the spiritual realm while the body sleeps.
Whoa, so even sleep can be a part of the soul's journey. It's like this nightly adventure for our spiritual selves.
Precisely. It makes you wonder what kind of knowledge and experience our souls are bringing back from these nightly escapades.
That is definitely a question for part 2 of our deep dive. We've covered so much already, from the different types of souls to this perispirit and even astral projection during sleep. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of the Spiritist perspective, so stick with us as we delve even deeper into this fascinating and thought-provoking view of the soul. Welcome back to our deep dive into the soul. Last time things got, well, pretty mind-bending. with the idea that our souls could be taking these nightly excursions while we're sleeping. Makes you wonder what kind of experiences they're having out there in the spiritual realm, huh?
It really is a fascinating thought. And it leads us to another key concept in Spiritism, the idea that there are different types of spirits out there, not just, human souls currently embodied.
Okay, so we're expanding the scope here. Not all spirits are on the same, I guess, evolutionary level as us, so tell me more.
Exactly. Remember how we talked about Allan Kardec categorizing souls into those three types? Well, he also came up with this classification system for all spirits based on their level of advancement. He outlined 10 classes, ranging from like the most primitive to the most evolved.
10 classes? That seems pretty complex. So we're not just talking about like good spirits and bad spirits. There's a whole spectrum.
You got it. At the lower end, you have what are called the imperfect spirits. These spirits are still really influenced by material desires, and they haven't fully grasped the spiritual nature of reality.
So they're like the spiritual newbies, kind of still figuring things out, maybe prone to a few missteps along the way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Their actions might be, disruptive, but it's often out of ignorance rather than malice. Think of them as spirits that are still learning and growing, much like we are in our physical lives.
Okay, I can see that. We've all made our share of mistakes, for sure. But what about the ones at the higher end of the spectrum? Like, what distinguishes the good spirits?
Well, good spirits, as they progress through the classes, they become more and more characterized by wisdom, benevolence, and this desire to help others. They've moved beyond those kind of like material desires and are really focused on spiritual growth and service.
So they're kind of like the spiritual mentors, kind of guiding others along the path.
Exactly. They often act as protectors and guides for those of us who are still navigating those challenges of physical life.
I like the sound of that. Having a wise spiritual mentor on your side can't hurt. Now, earlier you mentioned something called soul emancipation. What does that actually mean?
So soul emancipation is basically the process of the soul gradually freeing itself from the limitations of the material world, expanding consciousness, developing spiritual awareness, and ultimately moving towards this state of liberation.
So it's like the soul breaking free from its earthly tethers. Sounds pretty liberating.
It is. And this process happens over time, both during our physical lives, A&D, after we transition from the physical realm.
Wait, you're saying that we can start emancipating our souls while we're still alive? How do we even do that? Is it like, meditating on a mountaintop or something?
It's not necessarily about like withdrawing from the world. It's more about how we live in it. Cultivating virtues like love, compassion, wisdom,
Right.
seeking knowledge and understanding of the spiritual side of reality, that plays a part.
Okay.
And really importantly, using our free will to make choices that are aligned with our highest good.
So it's not about becoming a recluse, but rather living a life guided by purpose and meaning that's in line with these spiritual principles.
Precisely. It's about weaving those principles into like the fabric of our everyday lives, our relationships, our work, everything.
Makes sense. But let's be honest, it sounds pretty challenging. I mean, is it even possible to achieve, complete soul emancipation while we're still in these physical bodies?
That's a good question. The Spiritists, they believe that true, complete liberation happens after we shed the physical body. However, the choices we make and the progress we achieve during our earthly lives, those have a profound impact on our spiritual evolution.
So it's like we're laying the groundwork for future spiritual growth, even if that full emancipation comes later.
Exactly. This connects back to the Spiritist view of life as a school. We're constantly learning, growing through our experiences, both the positive AD, the challenging ones.
It definitely reframes how we look at death, doesn't it? Instead of being the end, it's more of a transition to a new phase of soul development, almost like graduating to, a higher grade level.
Exactly. That's like a core tenet of Spiritist thought. Death isn't the end, it's a continuation of the soul's journey, like a stepping stone on this path to a higher level of existence. Speaking of stepping stones, remember how we touched upon that idea of souls potentially living multiple lives? Well, let's dive into that a little deeper and try to unravel those mysteries of reincarnation.
All right, let's explore what the Spiritists have to say about this concept of reincarnation. What's the purpose behind this cycle of rebirth, and how does it fit into that larger picture of the soul's journey? We've been on quite a journey exploring this whole Spiritist view of the soul. From multiple soul types to the Perispirit, and even the idea that we're, sharing this world with all sorts of spirits at different levels of development. It's a lot to take in. I have to say, I'm really fascinated by this idea of reincarnation, though. What's the purpose of coming back over and over? Is it just a cosmic merry-go-round, or is there, like, something more to it?
It's definitely not just a random rise.
Yeah.
The Spiritists, they see reincarnation as this process of soul evolution, a series of opportunities for growth and learning that unfold, well, across multiple lifetimes.
Yeah.
It's not about punishment or reward. It's really all about progress.
Okay, so each lifetime is like a carefully chosen classroom, tailored for the specific lessons that our souls need to learn. I think I'm starting to see the bigger picture.
Exactly. And it's not like we're trying to reach perfection overnight. The Spiritists believe that the ultimate goal is for the soul to slowly, gradually evolve towards this state of pure love and wisdom, shedding its imperfections along the way.
That sounds pretty ambitious. Makes you wonder, what kind of lessons are we here to learn? What are the, like, key subjects in this cosmic curriculum?
Well, think about the challenges we face in life. Things like relationships, loss, making those tough choices. These are all opportunities for us to grow. If we approach them with a desire to learn and evolve, we can move closer to that state of greater love and wisdom.
So it's not about avoiding hardship, but more about how we navigate it.
Right.
Like, it's about learning from our mistakes and becoming, better versions of ourselves. Almost like each lifetime is a chance to level up, like in a video game.
I like that analogy. And just like in a video game, the choices that we make, those determine how quickly we progress. If we keep making those same mistakes, well, we might find ourselves repeating similar lessons over and over again, stuck at that same level.
So it's not about some, external force judging us and deciding if we pass or fail. It's really about us, our choices, and our willingness to learn and grow right.
That's a really key point in Spiritism. They emphasize free will and this idea that we're ultimately responsible for our own spiritual progress. I think it's both empowering and a little daunting, don't you think?
It really does put things into perspective. It's not about blaming fate or blaming other people for our circumstances, but recognizing that we have the power to shape our destinies, not just in this lifetime, but across many lifetimes.
And think about the incredible diversity of human experience. Reincarnation lets us explore life from so many angles, to walk in different shoes, to learn from such a wide range of perspectives.
It's like we're all characters in this, grand cosmic play, each with our own unique roles to play and lessons to learn.
And maybe, just maybe, with each lifetime, we become more skilled actors, better able to portray the complexities of the human experience with greater depth and understanding.
I have to say, this whole deep dive has been, well, pretty mind-expanding. This Spiritist perspective on the soul, it's both intricate and inspiring. It's given me a new way to think about life, death, and the journey in between. Really something I never really considered before.
It's definitely challenged the way we typically think about things, hasn't it? And that's really the beauty of exploring all these different perspectives. They encourage us to question our assumptions, broaden our horizons, and, well, just keep searching for a deeper meaning. Who knows what other mysteries await us as we continue to delve into this whole concept of the soul, right?
Well, unfortunately, we'll have to wrap up our deep dive for today, but remember, this is just the beginning. There's always more to learn, more to ponder, more to discover about this fascinating topic. Until next time, keep those minds open and those souls curious.